You walk into your elderly mother's home, and suddenly you're hit with this wave of complete overwhelm. Every surface is covered. Every closet is packed. 40 years of Christmas decorations, stacks of magazines from the 90s, clothes that haven't been worn in a decade. And you think, where would we even start if mom needed to move? But what if I told you about 74-year-old Margaret? She looked around her cluttered 3-bedroom home on a Friday morning, and by Sunday evening, completely transformed. Not just organized. I'm talking about a total life transformation using 7 simple secrets that most families never discover. Now, whether you're watching this as a senior who feels trapped by your own belongings, or you're an adult child watching a parent struggle, I want you to know something. What feels like an impossible mountain of memories right now, it doesn't have to stay that way. This isn't just about getting rid of stuff. This is about reclaiming your peace of mind. It's about creating breathing room for what truly matters in these precious years. Today, I'm sharing Margaret's 7 genius decluttering secrets, the same strategies that thousands of other seniors have used to transform their homes without the emotional exhaustion, without the physical burnout, and most importantly, without the regret. By the time we're done here, you'll have a complete roadmap, one that actually works for people dealing with a lifetime of possessions and all those emotional attachments that come with them. But before we get right in, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Have you ever felt completely overwhelmed by the thought of decluttering your home? You're not alone, and I promise you're in the right place. And hey, if you want more life-changing tips that help seniors live their absolute best years, make sure you hit that subscribe button for elderly healthcare. Trust me, you're going to want to see what we have coming up. All right, let's discover Margaret's first secret. Margaret's first secret is what I call the future self-test, and it completely changed how she saw everything in her home. You see, Margaret had been a high-powered executive for 30 years. Her home was filled with power suits hanging in the closet, shelves lined with business books, and boxes of conference mementos from her corporate days. But at 74, sitting in her cluttered living room, she had this profound realization. She was holding on to the person she used to be instead of embracing who she was becoming. The woman she was now? She was a watercolor artist who spent her mornings painting by the window. She volunteered at the animal shelter 3 times a week. She loved hosting small tea parties for her neighbors. But her home didn't reflect any of that. It was like a museum dedicated to corporate Margaret, not the vibrant, creative woman she'd become. Here's what's fascinating. Research shows that seniors who successfully age in place, who thrive in their later years, they focus on their evolving identity rather than clinging to past roles. This psychological shift from who I was to who I'm becoming isn't just helpful for decluttering. It's actually crucial for mental health and life satisfaction as we age. But here's where most people get it wrong. They declutter based on guilt about the past or this sense of obligation to maintain old identities. They keep business clothes just in case they need them again, even though they've been retired for 10 years. They maintain a formal dining room they never use because, well, that's what they've always done. It's what's expected. Margaret broke free from this trap with one simple question. For every item she hesitated over, she asked herself, does keeping this serve the person I'm growing into, or is it anchoring me to a past that's already complete? It was like a light switch flipped. She kept one meaningful business suit for special occasions, something that honored her accomplishments without overwhelming her space. The rest? She donated them to a nonprofit that helps young women starting their careers. She said it felt like passing the torch rather than losing a piece of herself. Once Margaret got clear on her future self, she needed a way to tackle the physical work without completely exhausting herself. Which brings us to her second genius secret. Margaret's second secret is something she calls the 10-minute energy rule, and this discovery literally saved her entire weekend. You see, Margaret noticed something that most decluttering advice completely ignores. As a senior, she had about 10 minutes of sharp, clear decision-making energy before mental fatigue would creep in. After that 10-minute mark, everything started feeling overwhelming, and she'd find herself keeping things just to avoid having to decide. This isn't weakness or laziness. Studies on decision fatigue show that our cognitive resources actually deplete throughout the day, especially when we're making complex emotional decisions. And for seniors, this happens even faster due to natural changes in brain function and energy levels. It's like your decision-making muscle gets tired, just like any other muscle in your body. Here's where most people sabotage themselves. They think they need to tackle entire rooms at once. They'll start with grand plans to clear out the whole bedroom or organize the entire kitchen in one day. What happens? They burn out after an hour, abandon the project halfway through, and then feel like complete failures. This creates this awful cycle of starting and stopping that makes people think they're just not capable of getting organized. Margaret flipped this approach completely. She set a timer for exactly 10 minutes and focused on just one small area. One drawer, one shelf, one corner of the closet. When that timer rang, she stopped immediately, even if she wasn't completely finished with that space. No exceptions. Over her weekend transformation, Margaret tackled 18 different 10-minute sessions. Instead of feeling drained and defeated, she felt energized. Each completed session gave her a little boost of accomplishment that carried her into the next one. She said it was like eating small, satisfying meals instead of trying to force down one enormous feast. With her energy carefully managed, Margaret still needed a way to see her belongings objectively, without all the emotional fog that makes decluttering so difficult. That's where her third secret becomes an absolute game changer. Margaret's third secret is what she calls the stranger's eye method, and this one really opened her eyes to how much unnecessary stuff she was carrying. Here's what she did. Margaret imagined a complete stranger walking through her home after she was gone. Not in a morbid way, but just practically speaking. Would this stranger understand why she kept 47 decorative candles that she never burned because of fire safety concerns? Or 3 complete sets of china that she hadn't touched since her daughter's wedding back in 1989? This isn't just a mental trick. It's actually a powerful psychological technique called distancing that removes the emotional charge from objects. When we imagine an outsider's perspective, we activate completely different neural pathways in our brain that allow for much more rational decision-making. It's like stepping outside of your own emotional bubble and seeing things clearly for the first time. Here's what happens to so many seniors, and maybe you've experienced this too. You keep things out of guilt, obligation, or this fear of being judged. You think, what if someone thinks I'm wasteful for getting rid of this expensive vase? Or what if my kids think I don't value the gifts they gave me? But here's the truth that Margaret discovered. Keeping in used items gathering dust is actually the real waste. The real disrespect to those gifts and memories. So for each item, Margaret would ask herself this simple question. Would a stranger understand why I kept this? Or would they think I was just holding on to clutter? It was amazing how quickly this cleared things up. Those 47 candles she never used? A stranger would be baffled. The duplicate kitchen gadgets taking up drawer space? Completely puzzling to an outsider. Margaret realized that most of her just-in-case items would genuinely confuse any reasonable person, and that made letting go feel logical rather than emotional. The stranger test helped Margaret see her belongings with crystal clarity, but she still had this nagging worry about needing things later. What if I get rid of something and then desperately need it next month? That's when she discovered her fourth secret, and it completely demolished those what-if fears. Margaret's fourth secret is what she calls the reality check strategy, and this one absolutely demolished her just-in-case hoarding habits. Let me give you a perfect example. Margaret had 12 screwdrivers scattered through various drawers throughout her house. 12, all kept just in case she needed them. So she applied her reality check and asked herself 3 simple questions. First, could I get a screwdriver if I needed one tomorrow? Well, yes, from any hardware store, any neighbor, even the dollar store. Second, what would it actually cost to replace the entire set? Under $15. Third, how many times had she actually used more than one screwdriver in the past 5 years? 0. Not once. Here's what's happening in our brains that keeps us trapped in this cycle. We're actually wired to overestimate our future needs and underestimate our ability to adapt and problem solve. This was a survival mechanism that kept our ancestors alive, but in our modern world, It can trap us in hoarding behaviors that no longer serve us. We think we're being prepared, but we're actually just creating stress. Most people make this critical mistake when they're decluttering. They calculate the theoretical cost of replacing items, but they completely ignore the real daily cost of storing, cleaning, and living with all that clutter. Margaret realized she was paying more to keep things just in case than she would ever pay to replace the few items she might actually need. The mental energy, the cleaning time, the stress of navigating around all that stuff, it was costing her far more than occasionally buying a replacement screwdriver. So Margaret's reality check became 3 simple questions for every item. Can I realistically get this if I need it tomorrow? What would it actually cost to replace? And how many times have I needed this specific thing in the past 5 years? Most items failed this test spectacularly. With her just-in-case fears completely conquered, Margaret still faced her biggest challenge. She needed to manage the emotional energy of going through sentimental items without completely draining herself. That's where her 5th secret proves absolutely invaluable. Margaret's 5th secret is something she calls the emotional energy scale, and this one saved her from complete emotional burnout. You see, Margaret realized that emotional energy is just like physical energy. You only have so much of it each day, and you need to spend it wisely. So she created an energy investment scale from 1 to 10 for every category of items she encountered. Let me show you how this worked. Her late husband's technical manuals? Those rated a 3. She spent 30 seconds boxing them up for her adult children to go through later. Her grandmother's handwritten cookbook with all the family recipes? That rated a 9. She carefully cleaned it, protected it in archival plastic, and gave it a place of honor in her new kitchen. Those romance novels she'd read once and would never touch again? They rated a 1. Straight to the donation box without a second thought. Here's what's crucial to understand. Emotional energy is a finite resource, especially for seniors who are processing grief, major life changes, and decades of accumulated memories all at once. When you spend that precious energy wisely on items that truly matter, you preserve your mental health and prevent the burnout that destroys most decluttering attempts. But here's the mistake that trips up almost everyone. People spend equal emotional energy on every single possession. They'll agonize for 20 minutes over a broken picture frame they don't even like, then feel completely drained when they reach their grandmother's jewelry box. They exhaust themselves on meaningless items and have nothing left for the pieces that actually deserve their time and attention. Margaret's system was brilliant in its simplicity. She rated each category of items from 1 to 10 based on how much emotional energy it actually deserved. 1 to 3 items got 0 emotional energy. Quick decisions, no second guessing. 4 to 7 items got maybe a minute of consideration. But 8 to 10 items? Those got her full, careful attention and proper planning for preservation or meaningful placement. With her emotional energy carefully protected and allocated, Margaret was finally ready for the practical sorting system that made everything crystal clear. Her 6th secret transformed how she approached the physical act of decluttering. Margaret's 6th secret is what she calls the 3-pile triage system, and she borrowed this technique directly from emergency medicine. Just like doctors in an emergency room have to prioritize patients by urgency, Margaret divided everything into 3 absolutely brutal categories. Can't live without it, might need someday, and haven't touched in over a year. But here's the genius part that changed everything for her. She treated might need someday exactly like haven't touched in over a year. Both categories meant automatic elimination. No exceptions, no debates, no second guessing. This works because medical triage forces rapid categorization without analysis paralysis. When a doctor sees an injured patient, they don't have the luxury of spending 20 minutes weighing all the possibilities. They assess quickly and move on. This same principle prevents the overthinking that keeps seniors stuck for months on simple decisions about household items. Most people get completely trapped in that middle category, might need someday. It becomes this endless loop of indecision. They think being careful means keeping everything questionable, but actually, that's what creates the paralysis. They'll debate for an hour over a broken blender they haven't used in 5 years, convinced that being thorough means considering every angle. Margaret's approach was revolutionary. She created 3 physical piles: essential daily items, donation items, and trash. The game-changing rule? Anything she found herself debating about for more than 30 seconds automatically went to the donation pile. No exceptions. She gave herself permission to be wrong about a few items rather than stay trapped by indecision about everything. And you know what? In 3 months of living in her transformed space, she only missed 2 items from her donation pile. 2 items out of hundreds. She said the peace of mind she gained was worth 1,000 times more than those 2 replaceable objects. By Saturday evening, Margaret had sorted through decades of possessions using this triage system. Everything had a clear destination, but she still felt this emotional heaviness about actually letting go of so many memory-filled items. That's when she discovered her final secret, the one that transformed potential regret into genuine celebration. Margaret's 7th and final secret is what she calls the completion ceremony, and this one completely transformed her relationship with letting go. Instead of sneaking items out to the donation bin like she was doing something shameful, Margaret created meaningful completion ceremonies for her most significant possessions. Let me paint you a picture of what this looked like. Margaret spent 10 minutes holding her favorite power suit, the navy blue one she'd worn to her biggest promotion interview. She sat with it and deliberately remembered her proudest professional moments. The day she led her first board meeting. The moment she mentored a young employee who later became a CEO. The confidence she felt walking into important negotiations. Then she did something beautiful. She consciously blessed that suit to help another woman achieve her own dreams before carefully folding it and placing it in the donation bag destined for a nonprofit that helps women enter the workforce. This isn't just feel-good sentiment. Ritual and ceremony actually activate the brain's meaning-making centers, transforming what could be a potentially traumatic sense of loss into a purposeful transition. This prevents the regret and second-guessing that sabotages most decluttering efforts. Without this step, people often end up rescuing items from donation bags at the last minute. Here's where most people get it completely wrong. They think they should just get over their emotional attachments and rush through the process of letting go. Push through the feelings, just get it done. But this creates unprocessed grief that inevitably leads to rescued items and abandoned projects. You can't just bulldoze through decades of memories without honoring what they meant to you. Margaret's approach was simple but profound. For each meaningful category of items, she created a brief ceremony. Hold the item. Recall one specific positive memory. Thank it for its years of service. Then consciously bless it to help someone else. This transformed guilt into gratitude and completely prevented those rescue behaviors that derail so many decluttering attempts. By Sunday evening, Margaret had transformed not just her home, but her entire relationship with her possessions and her past. I know what you might be thinking right now. If you're watching a loved one struggle with decades of possessions, this whole process can feel absolutely overwhelming. And if you're a senior facing this challenge yourself, it might seem impossible. Maybe you've tried before and felt defeated. Maybe the sheer volume of memories and belongings feels too heavy to even begin lifting. But Margaret's story shows us something powerful. With the right approach, this challenge that feels so daunting actually becomes an opportunity for liberation and growth. It becomes a pathway to rediscovering who you really are underneath all that accumulated stuff. Here's what I want you to understand. Instead of seeing decluttering as losing your past, these 7 secrets help you honor your journey while making space for whatever adventures still remain ahead. You're not throwing away memories. Those live in your heart, not in boxes. You're creating room for new memories, new experiences, new chapters of your life that deserve space to unfold. If you or someone you love has been putting off this process, here's what I want you to do. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Choose just one of these secrets and try it for 10 minutes today. I'd suggest starting with the future self-test. Ask yourself who you're becoming, not who you used to be. It might surprise you how liberating it feels to focus on the person you're growing into rather than the person you were years ago. 3 months after her weekend transformation, Margaret called to tell me something that brought tears to my eyes. She's now teaching watercolor classes at the senior center, something she never had space for before. She's hosting small dinner parties in her newly spacious home, connecting with neighbors she'd lost touch with. The physical space she created by letting go allowed her to embrace the life she actually wanted to live. Not the life she thought she should live, but the one that truly brought her joy. So let me quickly recap Margaret's 7 genius secrets that can completely transform your relationship with your belongings. Use the future self-test to focus on who you're becoming, not who you were. Work in 10-minute energy bursts to prevent mental fatigue. Apply the stranger's eye method to see your possessions objectively. Do reality checks on those just-in-case items that are really just taking up space. Invest your emotional energy wisely using the 1 to 10 scale. Use the 3-pile triage system to eliminate decision paralysis. And create meaningful completion ceremonies to honor your past while embracing your future. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 7 secrets resonates most with you? Have you noticed any of these challenges in yourself or a loved one? Maybe you've tried decluttering before and got stuck in that might need someday trap. Or perhaps you've experienced that 10-minute energy limit that Margaret discovered. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear about your experiences with decluttering and what's worked for you. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you found these secrets helpful, make sure to subscribe to Elderly Healthcare for more life-changing strategies that help seniors thrive in their golden years. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest insights, because we're constantly sharing practical wisdom that can make these years the most fulfilling ones yet. Remember, you have the power to create the peaceful, purposeful living space you deserve. Whether you're doing this for yourself or helping a loved one, these strategies work. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore more ways to make your senior years your absolute best years yet.